Going live, and the Hangout on Air is live. Good morning, happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Unfortunately, September 11th. I was reminded by Larry when we first got on before going live. I don't know what day it is half the time, and Larry pointed out it is September 11th, which of course is always a sad day when we think about what that represents. So, Sarah, are you representing her?
I'm representing.
All right. So, yeah, on that note, we're going to try and lift this up a little bit. So we were talking about, what were we talking about? We were talking about Google Sheets last week. But we were talking about Disney.
I was wondering if you would admit it.
Not appropriate for live.
For live.
Yeah, not ready for prime time Disney.
Is it, you know what? I bet you if you Googled it, you would find that there is there's probably websites out there for like Disney porn. Somebody has that as a fetish, I'm sure.
I am sure, and I've seen some crazy sites that question some of the earlier cartoons.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, and some of the like hidden meanings. Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Well, you have like the whole Alice in Wonderland thing, right? I mean, wasn't that all based on like some big acid trip?
Yeah.
Lewis Clark's. Well, I don't know if it was acid. I forget what drug he chose.
I think it was. I'm pretty sure it was psychedelics or hallucinogenics, one way or another.
Something.
So, actually, what we were talking about on a serious note beforehand was the QuickBooks 2016 has been rolled out for ProAdvisors only so far. It's going to be rolled out to the public, I think, not in that long from now. Did I see right? I think I saw September 15th or something like that.
I thought it was like the 23rd or something. Or in the 20th.
You're probably right, Dennis, because I wouldn't rely on me at all for something
So
like
if not next week, the following week.
One thing that kind of caught my attention is they're changing the ProAdvisor level, where you can actually scale back to getting, which I think they're doing is just getting the Pro and Premier.
Saves you $200 a year.
For like, instead of $200, yeah, it's like, I don't really use Enterprise or POS or Mac, so it's like.
Rarely.
So I'm thinking I just want to find out how to do that. I don't want them just to bill my
Yeah,
credit
if you're
card.
on an automatic renewal, mine's in October, I want to.
Yeah, I want to get in
And watch
there.
as soon as I bump it down, somebody needs me.
Right.
I just want to get in there and get, I don't want them to renew it to $549. I'd rather have renewed.
You know what's amazing is I posted the link to the post on the Sleater blog for it yesterday, and already it was so far buried that I scrolled down my entire page and couldn't find it. I had to actually do a search for QuickBooks 2016.
Huh.
So, and then of course I found the post. And look, Eric David Greenspan posted an accountants, bookkeepers, and business owners. That's so weird.
Oh, I have them going to spam,
So, of course, this search box here in the groups works really well. So if you're ever looking for content and you're pretty sure that we've covered it, like if you're looking for information on Smartsheet or something like Smartsheet was a big topic of discussion this week. Patty Sharf was asking about it because she's switching over from Asana, which I've also looked at, and I tried really hard to like it, and I couldn't bring myself to like it.
I wanted to reach out. I saw that. I wanted to reach out to her and see if she wanted to see any of my sheets.
You wanted to show her your sheets?
My sheets. Yeah.
Your smart sheets.
You wanted to show her that you got your sheets together.
Yeah, that's right.
So there's if you use the search box and you search for Smartsheet, you'll find that there's already a wealth of information, very likely on whatever topic you're looking for in here. I don't know if people recognize that this is here as much, but it's definitely very useful.
What are we talking about? Facebook page or?
Yeah, on the Abo group in Facebook. Search box. So search for QuickBooks 2016, and you'll find that this post here, which is where I just linked to Charlie Russell's post on the Sleater blog, where he always does a very thorough job of reviewing what's new, like what you need to know about what's new in the new version. And we were talking about this before we went live. Honestly, I'm not really all that excited about a lot of I mean, they're cool. It's always cool stuff. But there's nothing that I saw that I was like, oh my God, I've been dying for that. Like if they came out with something where they said, hey, you can now put in commission rates and calculate sales commissions in QuickBooks, that would get me going. You know what I mean? But they do have some cool stuff here. I guess I'm trying to be cautious.
We won't find all of them until we've been screwing with it for a while.
Right.
Well, that's why I lean on Charlie a lot, because Charlie's usually pretty good and thorough about covering all the stuff.
Absolutely. And I'm happy with not a whole lot of new improvements. I just like the stuff that they have to work.
I agree
that
with
would
you, Gina.
make me happy.
So Bill Tracker is really cool.
The what?
Go ahead.
Oh, Bill Tracker. What was the one with the sorting?
Well, hold on, Gina. Finish your thought, because I'm sorry I cut you off.
I'm sorry, I lost it already.
You just wanted
I was going to say I did install 2016, and the installation went beautifully. Did not take a lot of time. It found me in its network, which was a lot of times the issue that I have.
Because of the different logins?
Because of the different logins, right. So it did whatever they did it right this year.
So it wasn't that you got lucky. You actually
Hey, Gina, did you find you couldn't? Gina,
yes?
Did you find you couldn't use it until you actually registered it? That's what my experience was. Is that I couldn't open up like a sample company until I actually had registered. Where in the past you get like 30 days.
Okay. Well, I actually registered during the installation process. It asks you to do that.
Yeah, I tried that. It didn't seem to work. Other thing was different. The other thing was different was that rather than talk to a live person, it was computer generated. You keyed in your license number and product code, and then it gave you a computer generated, voice generated number that you typed in. You didn't really talk to a live person. That was my experience.
My experience was a little different, Dennis. I downloaded it, went through the install process. It asked me for the user ID, which I put my normal ProAdvisor ID and password. It automatically pre-filled the all of the key information, the product code, and all of that.
Oh, interesting.
And I went right to being able to go in and open a sample company. Once I did that, I always checked to be sure that my information is synced up. I saw nowhere to register, so I am registered and good to go.
Maybe because it didn't take my registration the first time because I saw that during the setup, and maybe it just didn't take it, so that's why I had to register it online.
Could be. Now, I went through a big process when Intuit changed the ProAdvisor site. I had to merge many of my logins, so I spent half a day with Intuit straightening all of that out. Maybe, I know, right, something to look forward to, but now maybe for me going forward, I'm good. So.
All right, so it sounds like we have one-on-one, easy registration process, and not that it sounds like Dennis had a difficult one. It didn't work during the installation process.
No, and like I say, I could not open up a sample company until I actually had registered it.
Right. Well, yeah, but again, Gina was able to register during registration, so she wouldn't have had that issue.
Right.
But so here are the highlights that Charlie points out in his article, and I'd encourage you all to come over to the Sleater blog and read this. He posts, as you'll see, I'll scroll down in a minute, great screenshots. He does like everything that one could do short of actually producing a video. That's why I always think I should just work with Charlie and produce videos based on whatever he writes.
What a great team you guys would make. Oh my goodness.
That would be. I should talk to him about that.
You
He might go for it.
Yeah.
You should. I like it. I like the idea.
So we've got a bill tracker, which we're going to see a screenshot of. That's the thing that excites me the most so far about what I'm seeing. Is it's a really cool interface for keeping track of bills. The bulk clear send forms.
Memos, right?
What?
That's been a pet peeve of mine. You still can't see credit memos.
I don't know. We'll come to that in a minute.
It's got purchase orders and open bills and overdue and.
Yep. So we're going to get to a screenshot of it in a minute before we get into. We have about 5 more minutes before we got to dump into. I don't want to make the mistake I made last week and skip the whole Google Sheets part. But so we've got the bulk clear send forms, which I do kind of like because a lot of times I've got invoices that I've sent out. A lot of times I'll send out invoices manually outside of QuickBooks. I'll save it as a PDF and send it. And oftentimes I do that because I want to include other stuff in the email that goes out with the invoice. And I just find it easier actually to save it out as a PDF and then compile whatever information I need to that way. So oftentimes I usurp QuickBooks altogether when sending invoices, but what that leads to oftentimes, because I have it set by default to put it in the email queue, is when I do go to send invoices from QuickBooks, I'll have a bunch of invoices in there queued to be sent out. So it's nice to have this where I can just get rid of all the ones that I don't want to send at one time. So that's the bulk clear send forms. The auto copy ship to address is cool, but it just doesn't get me that excited, to be honest with you. But that's probably because I don't use it. It's not a feature that I use or need. So for somebody who needs and uses this, I'm sure that's awesome. The fiscal year to last month report definitely is a handy one. That's a clever little one because I'm usually doing this fiscal year to date and then manually backing it up to the last closed month. Because usually in my experience, it's the case that I don't care to see what's going on this month so far because it's an incomplete month, right? So that's a really handy feature. Rebuild data and verify data updated. Okay, that's cool. I guess it makes it easier to see the error log if there are errors rather than having to go into that whole tech help screen like we've had to do for years. I guess even then I don't bother because I feel like by the time I get to the point where I've got data integrity errors, I feel like it's going to be above my pay grade anyway when it comes to trying to figure out how to fix them. I mean, sometimes you'll get something where it's clear that it's a bill that if you just delete and repost it, it's fixed. But, most of the time, if it can't be fixed based on the rebuild and the verify, I'm going to somebody like a Nancy Gomez to help me clean it up. Custom.
At that.
What's that?
Sarah's amazing at that.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
I'm good at finding.
All right, I'll send them to you from now on, Sarah. I'll put them up. I'll put up a QuickBooks backup file in a Smartsheet, and I'll comment on it. And this way you can comment back and tell me what's wrong.
Or a key box, whatever.
Okay. So then we have custom field filtering on item reports. That's exciting. That kind of stuff I love because I do a lot of stuff with inventory. So I love the fact that I can do that now. Label printer support. Anytime you talk to me about printing anything, I'm out. I never print anything. I'm allergic to paper. I hate it. Save the trees. I don't ever want to hear about people printing anything. I don't see any reason under the sun why anything should ever be printed this day and age. That's just my opinion.
Because I like to doodle.
You know what? There's an app for that, Sarah. I'm sure if you Google doodle apps, you'll find something.
Pencils.
The QuickBooks Statement Writer. If you have Office 2013 and the 2016 installation, should patch your computer so it'll work with QuickBooks Statement Writer. Cool. That's not one I've gotten into much either, although I'd like to. It's just a time thing. And then I need to get into QuickBooks Advanced Reporting. I reached out to Intuit and I said, send me some resources so I can get good at advanced reporting. Because for the first time ever since I've used QuickBooks, I tried to learn it on my own and found myself struggling. So
that is not good.
Well, it's a very complex, robust thing. So it's not. I guess it's just not the sort of thing you're going to learn on your own very easily.
You're probably getting into the database and the different tables and linking, I would presume.
Yeah, and you can create your own custom formulas and reports and things, and they have their own syntax for the formulas, and it's just, I try to create some reports, and nothing came out the way I had expected or hoped. So it did, after about an hour or two of messing around with it, I finally said, you know what? Actually, I was talking with Stacy Kildall about it, and then and she's so good. Next thing I know, I got emails from like 5 different people at Intuit saying, "Hey Seth, we heard you need help with advanced reporting. How can we help?" So which is great.
Hey Seth, back up. You're can you scroll back up to the last? Where to go? Right there. Oh, it's only Enterprise.
Which?
The column sorting on the payment screen.
Yeah, but why would you use anything besides Enterprise? That's another one of my little opinions. Like, just anything short of Enterprise is like a waste of time.
Profits all day long, and you'll find out why you're not on Enterprise.
They don't have the budget. I get it.
There's nothing in Enterprise I need. Quite frankly.
I've often said I don't like limitations. I don't like limits. I don't like when somebody tells me, Seth, you can't do this.
That's what's irritating me about this. They're putting all the new stuff in Enterprise They did that last year.
But
And they're
my
not
point is that's why I
getting
use enterprise, because I don't want the limitations of using anything else.
Yeah, I know, but see the pattern?
Well, no, it seems very clear, and this is strictly my opinion based on what I see, but it seems very clear to me that Intuit is investing most of their resources into enterprise
Absolutely.
and not not Pro or Premier.
Right. Right.
And enterprise is going to, I think it's like a subscription model now. If you want to
And
actually,
thousands of dollars. So
well, it's always been like at least $3,000 to get an enterprise, but
worse. So
join the
so
ProAdvisor
now,
program, then it's
you know,
included.
It's just the writing on the wall, I guess.
Right. Okay, 8:15. Got to cut it short. We got to talk about Google Sheets, and I know Sarah has been spending all week preparing for this and getting her questions ready. So let's get into it. And before that, and before I forget, just real quick, I have to give the acknowledgments where they're due. Team SOB helps us throughout the week. They're the ones who help us moderate the accountants, bookkeepers, and business owners group. We have Carrie on Mondays talking about the different QuickBooks products. Maybe we could talk to her next Monday about why Enterprise gets so much more love than everything else, or so it seems. Tuesdays we have Mariette Martinez, Tax Tuesdays, Tax Talk Tuesdays, Jay Kimmelman on Wednesdays, Talking Zero, and then Billy Ann Gregg, Talking QBO and QuickBooks on Thursdays, and of course our very own beloved Joanne Del Balso will be hosting today in the Abo chat. Just look for their post with the hashtag based on that day's topic, and you'll be able to comment and participate in the thread. So big thank you.
I have a question on that, Seth. On those different meetings, is there a transcript like there used to be with when it was hosted on the website?
Well, the transcript is just the thread in Facebook. That's why we moved it to Facebook, because it's just easier to access. So if you wanted the transcript, so to speak, so let's find Billy Ann's post from yesterday real quick, and then we'll get into today's content. So let's go here, and again, now we're going to use the search box, right? Billy Ann Grigg. We should find her post pretty close to the top on the search. So here it is. So you'll see a post like this where she has the hashtag SOB chat. And Dennis, if you click on the timestamp, that gets you the permalink directly to that post and thread.
Okay.
So you see how I did that? And you can bookmark that. So you can say, okay, this particular thread was of interest to me. Let me copy it. Let's go to Evernote, because Evernote is my favorite thing. And now I need to get to my clean note here. And just paste the permalink in there. So that link will forever take you to that thread.
Okay.
SOB chat.
Okay.
Thursday, 9/10/15, right? Something like that. Whatever you need to do there to remind yourself of what it is. But so now you get the point.
Okay.
That's how you can. That's how you get your transcript right there. You just link to the thread.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go into my Google Sheets. So last week we were talking about Google Sheets, and I was showing you my template that we use to develop a financial model around an accounting or bookkeeping practice, and I ran through it in less than 30 minutes really quickly. And so now we're going to go slow. I'm going to open up that template. I'm also opening up the course outline, because that's also done in Google Sheets. But then let's also create, and I love how when there's people in here, it comes up with these funny names like I have an anonymous Python in here. And then I'm going to create a new Google Sheet so that we can play. And so, Sarah, I'm going to start with you, since I know you said that you have been playing around, prepared. I know that you were excited about the fix that they made as far as the overlapping thing is concerned, and let's show everybody what we mean by that real quick.
Yeah, that solved it. I dove in both feet first when I heard that.
So if I put in a long string of characters, let's say, and I hit enter, see how it overlaps now? Mm-hmm. The question is, we may not always want it to. So if we go in here, we have our text wrapping options. So this is the overflow. This means it'll wrap, right? So that means it'll expand the column height to include it. And this means it'll clip it, which means it'll just cut it off. Now that was the old way, right? It would just get cut off. You didn't have a choice.
I looked away. I am so sorry. Do that.
Who did?
Show me
Who
how you
said that?
clipped it. I'm Sarah.
So it's in. There's 3 options in the drop down here. There's overflow, wrap, and clip.
Is that in Excel?
No, this is Google Sheets.
I know, but can you do that in Excel?
No, Excel doesn't give you the choice. Excel will overflow unless you have something in the cell next to it, then it clips it.
I know, it makes me crazy.
Or you can choose to wrap it. So you can't specifically choose to clip it. What Excel does have, though, which is kind of cool, is a shrink to fit option, which sometimes makes it so incredibly small that you can't see it, but...
Right. Well, sometimes when you're dropping general ledgers in Excel and you're giving them to auditors, you just... Sometimes I wish I could clip.
You know what? I think we should call this straight out of Google Sheets because there's a lot of rap-sounding lingo going on here. We're dropping cells, right? Kind of like dropping rhymes. And I think we should make this like the hip-hop Google Sheets class, right? I'm text wrapping, right? Wrap it, get it? You see what I did there?
So here's a question. If you clip it in Sheets and then save it back down as Excel, does it stay? Because I found out that the page breaks, you can't do a page break up in G Sheets, but if I have a page break when it's in Excel before it is converted, it stays.
It keeps it. Interesting. All right, so I just saved this in Excel. Let's
Okay.
see what happens. Let's test your. Let's not speculate, Sarah. Let's actually get the. No, I can already see it's overflowing.
Ah.
Now, but I think there's. You know what you could do, Sarah, if you really want the clip to happen, and there's nothing in the cell next to it. Just hit a space and create a null value, and boom, now it's clipped.
Sometimes I'll put in a period. I didn't think a space would work.
Yeah, space works. A space creates a null value.
Really?
Excel sees that as though it has a character in there. A space is treated like a character.
Okay, well, you just made my day. Okay.
So that's your answer. So this is the text wrapping thing.
And you know why that was so cool for me is because I will take budget versus actual reports, and when I upload it to G Sheets, now it's doing the financial statements properly because all those headers have to be able to wrap. So, and once I get it into the G Sheets, then I'm copying columns to do a projected budget for next year, and now everybody can work on it together. It's just, I've been doing it. I have a huge client with an August year-end and a huge budget committee for 3 different divisions, and we're all over it.
Okay.
But see, if you upload it from QuickBooks, it comes in with all the formulas. So when you copy a row, all the formulas are there, and then you just go in and change the numbers to what you want. So yeah.
Right.
Awesome.
I often don't love the way the formulas are written from QuickBooks, though. It does like when it sums the cells individually rather than summing a range, and it does the subtotal thing. So sometimes I rewrite those formulas anyway.
Yeah.
But so here I just kind of, because Sarah was talking about, the whole nonprofit budget variance thing, I just created a quick little thing here.
Fantastic. Well, it's uploading from QuickBooks that is really...
Right, that's where you get problems. So you know what? Maybe I'll pull up a quick QuickBooks sample file for a nonprofit. I don't mess with nonprofit accounting too much.
It's just like, I mean, you can just grab any P&L or any...
No, I know, but might as well stick with the context, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let me not put my client company names up on screen for you. Not that any of them would probably even care, but all right, so let's do a sample nonprofit organization, and then once my client names are off screen, I'll bring it back over. But meanwhile, while we're waiting, because I have to set up the sample, it basically expands a portable file when you're doing that. What other questions do we have about Google Sheets? I mean, last week I whipped through what I'd already set up. I really didn't teach how to create stuff. I just showed you what we had created in the template. And I gave some examples of how things could flow. So, flowing from one sheet to another.
I have a question.
Go for it.
Is there a text to columns?
To split columns into 2? I don't think so.
I know that there's an add-on for like names, but it didn't.
No, because it would be in the data menu. the text to columns thing. So no, there isn't a way to split up columns. And for those kids watching at home who don't know what Dennis is talking about, sometimes we'll get data in, let's say from a bank, for example, and it might have the date and a description for stuff I bought yesterday at the store.
All in one field.
And so now you want to split this up, right? So what Dennis is talking about is, and I sort of purposely put that little line that I put in there in between the date and the description is called a pipe, right? So that's a key. That's on your keyboard. It's usually the same key that it shares the backslash usually on your keyboard. So that's a pipe. When you have that, then thank heaven, because it makes it really easy to do what Dennis is talking about, because you have it's called a pipe delimiter. So if I go into the data menu here, and now we're in Excel, and I go to, where is it, text to columns, right? Or it's the Alt key and the letter D is in data, and the letter E is the keyboard shortcut. That gets you this dialog here, which is again the text to columns. So now, since I know I have a specific character that will always establish at what point I need to split this, I can go delimited, go next, and choose other and type my pipe in there, and notice it sticks the line in, it finds the pipe, and now it knows this is exactly where to split the cells in this column up. And when I say finish, boom, now I've got two separate columns, so I've basically segregated my date out. Now be careful, because what that also does is it leaves a trailing space before the text. So be aware of that, because sometimes that can screw you up, especially if you're trying to sort it or something later. Got to get rid of that extra space.
Can you define ranges with names like you can in Excel?
Yes, that you can certainly do in Google Sheets. So let's go back to Google Sheets. How to get to Google Sheets. Did you catch that Sesame Street reference? I was doing that yesterday all day. We actually, the first lesson in our Google Sheets course in School of Bookkeeping is called How to Get to Google Sheets. That was a whole play on how to get to Sesame Street. So you have to know me to follow along with my quirky humor. So Dennis wanted to know, can we define, for example, the range, let's say where our budget numbers are, right? So I just selected the whole range, and we go to Data, and we go to Named Ranges, and I can call this Budget. I have to learn how to spell budget first. My budget, and here it shows me the defined range, sheet 1, C4 to C23. I click Done. Now what that does is, and let's say I have some other numbers in here. Let's say now I have some expenditures. Minus. Right? So now what I could do is I could say C4 to C23. So over here on C25, rather than actually writing the formula, I can just say equals sum, and then I can click on budget over here, and notice what it does is it sticks the range in, so it makes it easier to write the formula. I can also actually put the word budget. See how that works?
So one final question. I use if then else statements quite a bit to create custom fields. Can you do that in Google Sheets?
Equals if.
Okay, so they've got that function.
Budget is less than 500,000, then tell me we need more donations.
Oh, that's cool. Okay.
Quote, comma, otherwise tell me, quote, all good.
Okay. Or you could just have quotes for if you didn't want anything in there. You just have.
You can just do double quote.
Yeah, okay.
So for a blank. So now if I say 450,000, it says we need more donations.
Okay.
550, all good.
Okay. That'll impress a client.
There you go. Well, better yet then, instead of
Job
saying
security.
we need more donations,
Yeah.
how about this? Get to work.
Yeah.
There we go.
Wow, that's
Now,
cool.
we need conditional formatting, right?
Yeah.
So under
red,
format,
yellow, and
we go to conditional formatting, and so over here we have the conditional format rules. So what's the condition? Let's see. Format cells if the cell is not empty? No. If the text contains value of the formula get to work, then the formatting style, we want a red fill, right? And then we want a yellow font. If it'll stay with me for a second. And then let's make it bold.
yeah, I'm all into visuals.
And then we're done. So now, when it says 450,000, it says get to work. If we do 1 million, we're all good. And we'll do the formatting for all good, too. So now we have $1 million budget, all good. If we go back to 450, just get to work. So now let's add a new rule.
Yeah, add a rule. Do you have to do a separate one?
Well, you add a new rule. It's for the same cell, and it
Okay,
could be
it's
for
like
the
a
same range of cells. So we're going to add a new rule.
Mm-hmm.
And if the text contains
Mm-hmm.
all good,
Mm-hmm. Does it have to be perfect, or could you have, like, good?
no, it has to be exact. For a text string like that, it has to be exact. If you're doing it based on a number, the value of the cell, then it can be based on anything greater than or less than.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, for a text string, it's got to be Boolean.
Okay.
Actually, you know what? It's a good point, though, because it does say if the text contains, and
Right.
not text is exactly. You know what?
'Cause
I
it
take that back, Sarah. We have the
Yeah.
distinction. We can do text is exactly or text contains.
All right, so put good.
So if it contains good, and I wonder if it's case sensitive. Let's find that out. I suspect it's not.
All
So
right.
if it says all good, then let's get a
Green.
nice green. Yep, and then we'll want like a white font actually. White font, green background.
Oh. Oh, those
So-
are my colors. It's my company
Oh, yeah?
colors right there. Mm-hmm.
And it works. So it's not case sensitive, which is good. So now let's say, notice if I go over the cell, it brings up my rules here, but I wanted to make one little change, and I want this one bolded. I want the text to get bolded once it changes. So 0, get to work. And now here's how I start expanding. Go ahead.
Now, what if I wanted to do it for the whole P&L? Can I just copy that down?
Yeah, you can copy the. In fact, let's copy.
Uh-huh.
And if I select paste special,
Yeah.
I can paste data validation. I can paste conditional formatting.
Oh, okay.
See
God,
that?
Boys, you never have time to play with.
Correct. Well, I do because I make the time because I love it so much. So now, but let's do one other thing. Let's say, because my threshold now, based on whether or not it's over or under 500,000, is what do you call it? It's built into the formula. What if I want to be able to change that threshold, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's pull that out, and we'll create. This is where we're creating what are called assumptions, right? So what's my budget threshold? Right now it's set to $500,000. 500,000. So now instead of the formula having the 500,000 number in there, we want to point it to the budget threshold. But there's a perfect example of a use case for doing a named range like Dennis brought up. So let me insert a row.
Oh.
I always like to have an extra buffer up here. But now let's define a range. We'll go to data named ranges.
Did you notice that the cutting and inserting is a little weird on the Google Sheet?
What do you mean?
Last night when you would insert a blank and then paste versus like if I wanted to move something I wanted to cut and then insert it.
Yeah, you can't like insert cut cells like you can with Excel. You have to insert the line first.
I was finding little quirks like that. Nothing big.
Yeah. Now notice when I try to create this budget threshold named range, I don't know if you're paying attention, but when I put it in with a space, it gives me an error message. You can't have a space, so you use the underscore on something like that.
Okay.
So now I've defined this as budget threshold. Then we come back over here to where the formula is.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of if C5 is under 500,000, we want to say if C5 is under budget threshold.
So you could actually create different tabs with different budget thresholds. So if you wanted to, kind of like scenarios.
Correct. And when you get the full name written in there, notice it kind of highlights it. So it confirms for you, kind of like, hey, you've got this right. Didn't like my formula. Why not?
Missing a parentheses.
No, I added in a parenthesis that I didn't need.
Oh.
See, now it works. So now if I change, so now it says it's all good because we're over 500. But let's say I increase the budget threshold to 1,250. Now I got to get to work. You see how cool that is? Because now I can change the assumption here. And when I have an assumption like this, in other words, when I have a number that I want to be able to change to look at different scenarios, then I'm going to go to my fill, and this is kind of standard formatting convention in financial modeling, is that usually we'll use kind of like almost like a light pinkish kind of background. I'm trying to find something close. Google Sheets doesn't have the best color palette like compared with Excel.
Custom. Got a custom though.
Yeah, we can do that. I honestly don't know how to find it in here. I mean, it's going to be something like this. Actually, I think I just got lucky. So we do that. Yeah, that's perfect, actually. Sarah, you know what? God is on my side here. God was shining down on me because of your presence.
We're a good team.
So then I go and usually use like a light blue for the font. Right? And that's kind of standard formatting to let me know, hey, this is a number you want to play with and change to see what the different scenarios are. So now we have a few different things here that are going to impact the message that comes up here based on the conditional formatting. Now, a lot of what sorry, go ahead.
They don't have like a macro recorder, do they? Not yet.
They do. But it's not macro because it's not VBA because that's a Microsoft thing. But there's like a Google script. That's something I haven't gotten into myself yet.
I would just.
And it doesn't have a feature.
If your plan is to bring it back down into Excel when you're done after you've collaborated. I look at this as more of a collaboration tool. And when we're totally done, I'll store it as an Excel.
See, I used to look at it that way, and more now, I'm just continuing to live in Google Sheets more. Like when I built the financial model for the course, the intention is to leave it there.
Yeah, but I don't want to store client stuff in a Google Drive. I mean, permanently. I want it on my server. I want it on my server. You know.
You know that Google Docs is HIPAA compliant in terms of security.
Okay.
That's in their terms of service. So.
Because it has a history. Yeah, it logs in the history of changes. Yeah.
Yep, and the security is there. So if the concern is over security, I'd argue that this is more secure than your own server.
Would it be as secure as, say, SmartVault?
Yeah, HIPAA compliant. I don't think SmartVault is HIPAA compliant, because, and a lot of them aren't HIPAA compliant because of what Sarah just pointed out. If they don't track the changes for long enough.
Yeah, who's edited it and when?
Yeah. So a lot of those aren't. Do they have the SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3 certifications from the AICPA? I don't know if Google cares enough about that to want that. You have products like, like SmartVault has it. Interestingly enough, I was doing some research because we were discussing this in the ABO group not long ago about security of all these different file storage options, and I've always been down on Dropbox over security. But I learned that they have all three. They have SOC 1, 2, and 3 AICPA certifications on security, whereas I want to say it was Box.net, which is really Box.com now, only has SOC 1 and 2. So at least last time I was checking on this stuff. So I thought that was pretty interesting, that Dropbox has now gotten to be more secure than the things that we've always by default thought of as being more secure than Dropbox. So Dropbox has definitely come a long way on security.
Well, in this case, I want all my files in one place, so I would either have all their files in Google Google Drive or not. And
I'm the same way, but that's why I'm using Google Drive more and more that way, because I like the collaborative nature of it, and I like if I want to sort of unshare it with the client, I can. That's easy enough to do. I I don't know. So I'm finding I'm living more and more in the cloud. I mean, I'm even so much stuff that I used to do locally, I'm doing more in the cloud because of the fact that it's backed up. Because I can lose a document locally. That on the cloud, especially with something like Google Drive, I know I've got incremental backups that I can tap into if I need them. Mm-hmm. Here's an example. So we were talking about project management applications in ABO this week, and let me see where it is. Where's my no, wrong one. It's going to be one of these. So if I go here, here's Active Collab, and here's Active Collab's new sort of notebook page. Mm-hmm. So I just like the visual aspect of this. I like the fact that it's on, it looks like it's on a recycled notepad. I'm a very visual person, so I like working in an environment like this, and you can see I'm writing content actually for a webinar that I'm going to be doing called Unlocking the Mysteries of Content Marketing for Accounting Professionals. Oh. But so this is another example of something I for a long time would have done in Microsoft Word that I'm now doing in this other cloud app because I actually feel more confident that it's not likely to get lost there. Like it'll be there if I need it as long as I've saved it.
Well, I need to make some decisions because I've got stuff everywhere.
Yeah, no, I'm doing the same thing as you, Sarah, because I have stuff in Box.com, but then if I want to start using Google Docs, like a Google Sheet or an actual Google, their version of a Word document, and I've got stuff in Box.com, that's kind of my default home base for my client files is Box.com. But as soon as I start using Google Sheets, now I've got folders for each client in 2 places in case I'm using Google Sheets, so then I'm like, all right, let me move it all to Google Drive then, right? But then I drive my other staff crazy because they're like, hey, Seth, where are we living now?
Where is it?
Box or Google? And I'm like, both. Now shut up and get to work.
Like you're living in a hotel, you keep moving.
Yeah. Well, I've been having memory problems lately, personally, and on the machine.
It gets worse.
Yeah.
So Sarah, here's a trick for you on that one, because I dig the memory problem concern. So at one point, I was actually using the Brain, my mind mapping software, to map out, and I would have a thought for clients, and then each client within that, and then I'd have notes that describe for each client where their stuff is. So I had it mapped out, basically, and I'd say, okay, most of their files are in Box.com, except if we're going to use a Google document like a Google Sheet,
then now you have to keep track of that.
Yeah.
All the syncing is, part of the, I've got Dropbox is syncing, and Evernote is syncing, and Google Drive is syncing, and so my husband put in a new hard drive, solid-state hard drive into my machine, and we moved all data onto it, or anything that doesn't live on my server, but my C drive is just programs, and that wasn't helping. And then, so I disconnected some of the syncing, so of course I had to get into Google Drive yesterday, and I had it turned off.
Gotcha. Yeah, and that's the same thing, and I'm trying to get away from the syncing. That's one of the reasons I'm becoming more of a fan of Google Drive, because Google Drive gives me the option to use the documents that live only on the web. But even there, what I love about Box.com is I can go folder by folder and say unsync this folder, meaning don't dump it onto my local drive. I'm just archiving it so I have it if I ever need it later, but I don't want it to take up space on my C drive.
Yeah.
And I love that. And I thought somebody said that Dropbox had that same feature, but I can't find that on Dropbox.
I'm still so nervous about not having it with me.
No, I don't want it there. In fact, I'd rather have it unsynced, and then when I need it, I can sync it, or I can copy it into a synced folder real quick so I can work with it, and then move. I'd rather have that kind of workflow set up, because what I'm finding is, this computer that I'm running this Hangout on right now is a fairly new computer, and my C drive is filling up, especially because of all the video files.
Right.
So, and because with Box.com I have unlimited storage and bandwidth, which I don't have with any other service, Dropbox gives me a lot. I have a pro account with them, so I pay like $200 a year, and I have over 200 gigabytes of space, which is probably more than I'll ever need. But I think even they have a limit on file size, whereas Box.com, I can put any size file, any number of them. There's no limits on my account with them. I pay $45 a month for that, and that gets me 3 users and no limits. So I've been dumping my video files into Box.com, letting them sync up, and then I move them into an unsynced folder, just on the website. So.
Well, I think with Dropbox they changed it where you can get a terabyte for $10 a month.
I don't know.
Like Google,
yeah,
just like Google Drive.
Well, Sarah, you know what? I am starting to use a separate hard drive that's detachable for all my client files, along with having them in the cloud. That way they aren't on my C drive, and should something happen to my computer, I have them there too, kind of as a backup.
That's how I've done it for years. But my concern, of course, with the external drives is if they crash, I'm screwed. But that's what you said. You've got it in the cloud too, so that's good. But and to me, it's like what I'm ultimately trying to do actually is get all the stuff I have on. I have like 3 external drives because just over the years I had to get bigger and bigger ones and never was able to keep up with migrating the files from one to the other. So eventually I want to consolidate all that into box.com and then just unsync the stuff that's really more of a permanent archive that I don't need ongoing access to. I'm trying to actually get off of those external drives because I'm afraid they'll crash one day and then I'll lose what's there.
Yeah, but I mean, if you have backup in different places and different types of backup, it protects you. I'm trying to get away from having anything on my C drive so I can interchange my computers or devices whenever I need to.
Change that to total.
Total? What?
See, it says columns by month. That's the default. Just change it to none. Or
total only?
Yeah. There you
Why,
go.
we don't want it by month? I guess it's a little easier to read this way. All right, so let's dump this. Now, of course, it'll be nice if Intuit catches up with the rest of the world and gives us an option to export to Google Sheets.
Well, that was another thing I wanted to bring up. The Google Drive had the Excel, and then when I opened it and converted it to a G Sheet, then I had 2, and I didn't want to confuse the client, so then I nuked the Excel version.
That's what I usually do. Or what you could do is create a subfolder for the Excel versions, right? Stick them in there after they've been converted so that you have that as kind of an archive. That's how I do it, actually. But I'm not going to mention names, but other accounting software that I've used gives me the option to export directly to Google Drive. I'm just saying.
Dennis likes that software.
Zero does that, right?
Yeah, that's who I was referring to, Dennis.
Zero?
Have to check that out.
In fact, I was working with a client in Xero yesterday, and we were having problems getting his beginning balances set up because the bank feeds didn't go back far enough, and I've been having a hell of a time getting his beginning accounts reconciled in Xero. This is one of these days. Originally it was going to be a blog post. Now I'm about to write a book on why you should not migrate data to the cloud. Just book a trial balance. I'm going to make such a strong case for that.
And then you use my program.
Yes,
Sarah's
I
program.
agree. I agree.
Trial balance exporter.
What's the URL on that, Sarah?
Tools.aspinc.net. I'm learning, Seth.
There you go. Now you need to create an affiliate program.
I know, I have the capability. There's something else to play with.
Did you see my post on T-Sheets that I published yesterday? Or they published it? On affiliate programs? My little rant for the day. I have another one coming up. It's called "It's Not Illegal to Make Money."
I am going to be purchasing a laptop, and for the first time ever, I am not going to get Microsoft Office on it.
Really?
Really?
I still couldn't live without Office. I still need
Well, no, I have my Office on my home desktop if I need it.
So what are you going to do?
But for my laptop, I'm just going to be using Google Drive.
So you're going to use Google Sheets and Google Doc.
Yep. If I need to access any of that, I will have it in Google Drive, and I can sync it back and forth to the desktop.
Why is that taking so long?
It's obviously a big report.
Seriously.
And it's also in the future, just trying to predict the future in 2019, what's going to happen.
So yeah, I've never purchased a computer without Office and would never have considered it before, but this is the first time I'm going to do it. I'm going to go with Google and leave.
And you can still open all your Office docs. It'll just convert them for you.
Absolutely. I don't see a need for it.
Have you ever looked at, I think it's called Open Office? It's a desktop.
Well, yeah, I have, and I've installed that to people that did not want to pay the price, but it's a free software, and you don't get all the things that you get with Microsoft Office or even Google Drive.
You get what you get.
You get what you pay for. If you don't pay for it, you don't get.
Or you don't get what you don't pay for.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I put the sample budget in Excel in my downloads folder. Now let's go convert it. Let's go to Google
I want
Drive.
to close QuickBooks because that's a hog.
That's one of the reasons
My
I don't use
Chrome has
QuickBooks.
been crashing like crazy lately. If
Oh,
I
they've
open
been
a
seriously-
QuickBooks file on my other monitor, Chrome's gone.
Well, they got a new version of Chrome, you know. One thing I like about it is you can turn off one thing that annoys me is that you have multiple tabs open. All of a sudden, one starts, doing a commercial or something like that.
Yeah.
So you
There
can.
goes your resources.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so we're going to open a file by uploading. So I'm going to open up my downloads folder and just drag it over. And you can change your default settings and ask it to sort of prompt you about converting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I have that set, so I'm going to drag my sample budget over here. And so this is, of course, how you can convert from Excel to Google Sheets.
We forgot to put the header in the...
And since I did tell it to open it, it is going to automatically convert it. It obviously can't open a Google Sheet without converting it.
What'd you do?
I from within Google Sheets, I chose File and Open,
Oh.
and then I went to the Upload option and then dragged it over. So,
Oh, you brought in the tips, yeah.
well, yeah, because I just brought in the entire
The whole
export.
thing, yeah, with that, yeah.
Remove that. So now here it comes in, and I know here's, what Sarah's talking about. Look at this
Now look
mess
at this.
over
Up
here.
on the top left, there's two. Drag that over to the right. There's two of them. That's what I was talking about last Friday.
Well, and this is an image, actually. So
I know. And so you nuke it, but I have no idea what's causing that.
it's
There's two
picking
of
up
them.
something from the Excel file, yeah,
I know.
and rendering it as an image.
You know.
Also, if you don't love the way the screen is separated, we can go to View,
Oh, yeah.
and let's just say no rows, and View, freeze, no columns. This way we can fix that ourselves. Obviously, I don't love the way this formatting comes in.
Yeah, it brought them in pretty fat.
Are you calling me fat?
No.
So,
But once
so
you get
we-
past that, it's slick.
yeah, so then I'm just going to basically say, you know what, is there a clear formats? I
Yeah.
forgot. Yeah,
Clear
formatting.
formatting right
Boom.
there.
So
But
let's
you're
just
going to lose
pull
all your
the format.
underlines and all your sections. You
That's
don't want
easy
to lose
to
them all.
fix. So now I'm going to double click to increase these. I still got these borders in here, so let's clear that.
Huh. Just clear one. Oh, there you go. Yeah. Okay.
And now I'll just bold and I can underline them. Why isn't underline here? That's always driven me crazy.
That was an irritation. And also there isn't a line above and a double underline below. That's not an option.
Yeah, like that. That you can do manually now, though, at least, because you can come over here and kind of pick and choose exactly how the bordering gets done.
I played with the border style.
I like how you can color them.
Yeah, I do like that.
I like color by numbers.
Some of the options were pretty much more intuitive than Excel. But
So it comes in pretty nice.
yeah.
I mean, there's a tiny little bit of formatting to fix at the very top, but the rest of it comes out pretty well. Let's see how the formulas are written. Yeah, see, I guess it does a rounding, but why should it have to do a round formula? It should be an even number. How would I get a partial decimal or a decimal beyond 2 places out of an accounting report where everything's based on 2 decimal places, right?
No, it's not rounding. It's round.
No, the formula's round sum.
I know,
And it
but
says
it's
to
still
5
going to be.
places.
Yeah, 5 places. That isn't enough.
I only need 2. I don't want 5 decimal places. I only want 2.
It's not going to show it that way. It's not going to render it that way.
No, but I still hate the form. So like when I see this, I just want to go sum.
Yeah.
Just give me a straight sum. I don't need all that other stuff.
Okay.
I just want to. It's like, you know what, Google, stop wasting my time. Or that's a QuickBooks thing.
Yeah. Well, what's cool is because Chrome kept crashing on me all week, it's saving every time you hit enter. It's saving.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
And I'm also noticing, though, that interestingly enough, it's probably because I'm streaming on the Google Hangout right now, and it's a very big spreadsheet, because we saw how long it took to export from QuickBooks. There's actually a little bit of a delay, or there was when I wrote and copied the first formula. It always seems to pick up after that, though. Like at the beginning when I start using the sheet in Google Sheets, it might be a little slow, but then once I start going, it kind of picks up after that. Which is pretty cool. So, and the other thing I want to point out that it did was, because I opened it directly within Google Sheets, it took what I dragged over from my downloads folder and just created this. Now, what folder is this in? Where did it put it, right? That's a question people are going to ask. That's what this little guy right here tells you. It's actually meant to be used to move it from one folder to another, but you can click on it to find out where you are in your folder structure. Because a lot of times that gets confusing. So what it does is everything by default just goes right to the root My Drive.
Oh, cool.
So now that I know that, I can come over here and browse that and go to My Drive. And there's my sample budget. So now, of course, I can span my folders and drag it in. Or right from within here, I can browse and move it wherever I want it. Very easy to do.
And you can share at the sheet level.
Correct.
Not
I can
the
share
folder
just
level.
That's one of the things I love about Google Drive, and Box.com does the same thing, where I can be very specific. I can share certain files within a folder, but not share the whole folder by default.
It's one of the reasons I don't like Smartsheet.
Smartsheet. Oh yeah, well that's because with Smartsheet that's because you're using workspaces. If you want more flexibility with sharing, then don't use a workspace. Just put it in a folder. So with Smartsheet, you have folders and workspaces. If you want to be more specific about who something is shared with, then use the folders instead of the workspaces. Because then you're sharing specifically that one sheet with people.
But you'd put one sheet in each folder.
Well, you'd have to distinguish that one is being shared with...
The same thing as a workspace.
No, because a workspace is global. Once I share a workspace, everything in that workspace is shared. Whereas in a folder, I can have 10 different sheets. One sheet can be shared with these 3 people, another can be shared with a different 3 people, and so on. In other words, the folders sharing is, I'm not sharing at the folder level, I'm sharing at the sheet level.
I have to play with that.
With workspaces, you're sharing at the workspace level, so you have no flexibility within that.
Folders, huh? Okay. Thank you.
Now the downside is, though, that if I now want to share it all with a group, I have to still share it individually. But you can create groups in Smartsheet. So I can create a group of people and say, this is my team that works on all my stuff, and I can share that sheet in that folder with that group. So there's, any different ways to slice and dice it.
We should have a show on that, sharing and privacy and who gets to see what on what platforms. Because I get confused between all of them, between Google Drive, between Facebook, all of them have different parameters.
I like that idea, actually.
And also with the different CRMs.
I've been ignoring the chat. Anything in here that I should be responding to or addressing or answering? Nope.
Nope.
Nope. All right, let me turn off my screen sharing. So next week we have actually an exciting topic. I think it's exciting, actually. Whoa, I look big.
What is it?
I'm like leaning in towards the screen. All of a sudden I see like me, and there I am.
I don't know how to get my camera to do that. It wants my whole office.
Well, it's just where it's situated compared to you.
Sarah, didn't you wake up to Seth's face at one point? Scared you?
That would be scary.
No, that was Facebook the other night with Eric and Stacy. Who was it? Anyway, they were playing in the middle of the night, and Eric had put the top of her face to the bottom of his face. That was on the iPad. And I went into Facebook, and that's the first thing that hit me, and it was huge. And I went, ah! And I woke up.
That's funny. So and yesterday in Abo, somebody said that I looked like Jimmy Swaggart. I think I'm a little offended by that.
Oh, I would be offended. Ooh, Lord.
Huh.
Somebody said I finally figured out who you look like, and she posted. I think it was Emily Clark actually posted that in a thread. And I actually looked. I was like, "Am I really?" And I'm like, "No, I'm way better looking than you."
You don't want to search him. You might get stuff you don't want to see.
Well, maybe he does.
So next week, actually, I forgot. I meant to mention this at the top of the hour. I'm wearing my Fundera shirt, right? Next week, I'm bringing back Meredith Wood. Not specifically to talk about Fundera, though. Meredith and I, we have a course upcoming on Fundera at School of Bookkeeping. And one of the things, so I got on the phone with Meredith this week, actually, to discuss the content and what we'd be covering and start developing the outline for the course with her. And during our conversation, we started talking about this whole idea of the generation gaps, baby boomers, Generation X, and Generation Y, and now I guess Generation Y wasn't good enough, so we're calling them the millennials, right? And then apparently Kanye West was in concert recently saying something like, "We're the millennials," which just shows what a moron he is, because he's not a millennial, he's like 36.
Right.
He's a millennial wannabe.
He's a wannabe, yeah.
Well, I guess he picks up on, catch terms that a lot of people are using, and he doesn't bother to learn what they actually mean. He just uses them because he figures it'll get a rise out of his audience. But anyway, so Meredith and I'm gonna bring Meredith back next Friday, and we're gonna talk about this and all the implications. What do we see in the workplace, in the business world, based on the differences between these generation gaps, the work habits, the work ethics, all this kind of stuff. I mean, when I grew up in my day and age, and I feel like I'm dating myself when I put it that way, but the reality is I couldn't get out of my parents' house fast enough, whereas when we look at this millennials generation, a lot of them are okay staying at home with their parents until they're 30-something or until they get married, and it's really time to move out. And there's a number of reasons for this. I mean, some people, especially my fellow Generation Xers, want to point our fingers and say they're lazy. I don't know if that's necessarily the case. I think that socioeconomic implications have had a lot to do with that too. It's been much harder for that generation of people to find jobs, which means it's been much harder for them to be able to support themselves out of their parents' homes. So I think it'll be a really interesting conversation. We're bringing Meredith back next week to have that conversation on the Hangout. So hopefully we'll see you all there.
Good. I'm
and Gina, what's going on today?
What you see is what you get.
You never know.
You never know. That's right.
Maybe I'll try to figure out how to get this little folder and Smart Sheets out from underneath the workspace.
I think you can just drag it.
I drag it, and it's like...
You might have to create a new folder and then just drag the sheets themselves from the workspace to the folder. That's probably what you got to do. And then it'll just warn you that you're going to lose the sharing that you had in the workspace when you do that.
When I set up a folder, I don't know. I'll keep playing.
We'll play with it. And Gina, I love your idea for doing a hangout on sharing properties amongst the different applications. So we'll put that together maybe for 2 weeks from now. Maybe that's what we'll do.
Great.
Remind me, have your people call my people. And we'll see you all in Gina's hangout later today, 2:30 Pacific, 5:30 Eastern. I might actually be able to make it today because I have a one-on-one session with somebody from 1 to 2 my time. So just
goody, because I have a table question.
Okay.
Pick your brain.
Perfect.
No, it's simple. It'll be simple to you. Take you half a second.
All right. All right. So now I feel like there's pressure. Now I have to.
Now you have to come.
The only question is, will I have time to get a haircut between now and then?
Come prepared.
That's the question of the day. So I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to show up, and it's up to you guys to figure out whether or not I've had my haircut. That's gonna.
Well, no haircut required.
Okay. No haircut required. But I might just have to go get one before I show up for the hangout.
Okay.
Because we were talking in Abo last week about somebody asked if I actually deduct my hair gel. On my
That's crazy.
And I said I don't actually use gel. I use a cream. It's like a hair cream that I use. And no, I don't deduct that, but I do deduct my gym memberships under the heading of professional maintenance because I got to look good for the camera.
Oh boy.
And all kidding aside, that thread was hysterical. If you go into Abo, it's probably kind of buried by now, but you can probably, if you search for hair gel, it'll probably come up because it was so funny. We were talking about like deductions on the set of porn films and fluffers and all these things that were just hysterical. And then we got into talking about the fact that drug dealers have to report their income legally, but they can't deduct cost of goods sold. It was actually a really fascinating conversation.
Well, I want to pay my little dog. I think he is the best stress reliever that I have, so I think he should be on my payroll.
Well, I want to be able to claim my dogs as dependents the way you would claim kids, because to me they are like my kids.
Well,
and they cost as
medical
much.
care.
That's why the IRS makes babies get Social Security numbers.
So that's going to be another topic for another hangout. We're going to call it ridiculous deductions. That's what we're going to call it. And we're going to talk about all your clients who have come up to you with the most ridiculous things that they wanted to deduct. I want you to prepare your list. You have 3 weeks to prepare it, and then I want you to bring it. I want you to. That'll fall out right around beginning of October as we're going into the last of the extension filers for personal tax return purposes. So it'll be perfect timing for that. So,
October 15th.
all right, so next week we're doing generation gaps. The following week we're going to do sharing properties of collaborative applications. And then the following week we're going to do ridiculous deductions.
So make yourself a note and file it. I have no idea.
Somebody send me an email with that because I'll never remember it.
I know. You have too many places to put your...
Sarah, put it in Smartsheet. We'll put our production schedule in Smartsheet. And then share it with me.
We have an ABBO shared sheet.
I know we do.
We
Hold on a
do.
second.
Yeah, just with the little hangout group.
What? Okay, so my wife wants me to call it "What the F deductions."
Yeah. That's a good one.
WTF deductions. That's the one. That's what we're calling it.
We should create an account for that.
That's true. That would be a great expense category.
That's what I want to do.
WTF. I love that, Sarah. That's brilliant.
And then all
I'm
the
going to use that.
questions for the
You
CPA.
know what? I'm using WTF on my clients' books. That is awesome.
I am
Sarah, you get the
not
win.
with all clients, but I know a client right now. I'm going to put that on.
That's
Let's
awesome.
put
All
on the
right,
tax
that's a
return
perfect
line
note to
item.
end on. We'll see you all at 2:30 this afternoon.
Okay. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
That was brilliant, Goofer.
That was brilliant.